people from Middle East, and we don't know why.
Because I have a.
Yes. So the reasons why we make sure that it's on YouTube streaming. So I want to check with Go. Are you there?
Yeah, we're ready. We're ready.
Okay.
Let me know when you guys ready.
Yeah.
I'm
so
ready.
he's
Ready.
yeah. So we have in 1 minute, right? Go.
Yeah. Let me know when you want to start. I can count down and we can start.
So Jennifer, I think the stage is yours right now, since you're the host. So I will put on mute and turn off my.
2, 3, 2, 1. We live, guys.
All right. So I see we have 13 people in Zoom meeting now. Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the conversation with guest speaker event today. The event is organized by Viet.UX-PM. But let me see properly. I see that we have 13 people and I don't know how many people we have in the YouTube channel. So probably we just wait for 1 or 2 minutes for people to join. And after that, we can kick off the meeting, kick off the event. Hang on, are we going to record this meeting? And do I need to do anything to record the meeting, or you will like help us with that?
Just go ahead, Jennifer. Everything I taking care of. You just go with me along. Yeah.
All right. Yep. Probably I think that we just wait for 1 or 2 more minutes.
Jennifer, where's that a picture of? What's that background?
It's Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, it's very nice.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
You live around there? You work around there?
Yep, I live around there. So I live just like 10 minutes of drive from the downtown. So like I literally like if in the summer, like during nice weather, I can just drive there and like walk in that trail walk there. You can see like several people there.
Yeah, that looks very nice. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. So how is the weather in Boston today?
Oh, really nice today. I wish I can turn my camera. It's been cold this year, actually, very cold compared to the normal year. We didn't get as much snow as we normally get, but it was very, very cold. In the probably a lot of days in the 10 to 20 degrees, which is normally cold. In previous years, I think due to global warming, it's been a little bit warmer during the winter. But this year, for example, the snow came and it stayed for over 1 month. Previous years, the snow would come and then it would warm up, it would melt, and the snow would come again, it would warm up, it would melt, it would keep doing that. So we never got snow accumulation. But actually in front of my house, we still have snow.
Wow, really? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, like in Columbus now, probably like 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had a lot of snow.
Yeah.
I mean, like because of the snowstorm that just like went to like all America, Texas, Columbus, and some other areas. But now the
Colorado, I think, got a lot of snow this year. So I have some friends in Colorado, and they were just trapped in all the snow.
Oh yeah. So because like I work for USAA and the head office is in San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah.
So it was very, very bad there because Texas is not used to handling snow.
They had the power problem that one weekend. They're not used to snow in places like Texas. And so normally it almost never snows, but when it snows, it's like very, very bad. And I'm sure working at USAA, when it snows in places like Texas, you guys got a lot of calls.
Yep.
I need some help, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I just saw Nam's ping that we should start because I see that we already have like 20 people in Zoom meeting. And I mean, like we have a YouTube channel also, and I'm sure there are a lot of other people watching in YouTube also. So I think that we should be good to start the event now.
All right, awesome. Let's get started.
All right, awesome. So let me say again, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Conversations with Guest Speaker event today. The event is organized by Viet.UX-PM, which is a community of Vietnamese UX designer and product manager around the world. Our mission is to empower the community of Vietnamese people who want or who has been a UX designer or a product manager. So today we are very lucky to have Dr. Long Phan, who is our special guest speaker today. Dr. Long Phan is a very accomplished engineer, scientist, and entrepreneur. And he is currently the Chief Technology Officer of KAiT, which is a startup based in Boston, focused in AI, artificial intelligence. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Long Phan.
Thank you very much, Jennifer.
You're very welcome. And Dr. Long Phan has created many startups, and he has had a lot of experience in managing startup. So he's definitely like a person who has a lot of experience in and understanding about the startup environment. And today he will be here to share with us his experience and his knowledge into two topics. Number one is the product management in startup environment. What does it look like and how to become successful as a product manager in startup? And number two is how to find market fit for a new product. So with that, let me turn it. But I think that there are a couple of things that I would like to just walk over before like I turn it over to Dr. Long to talk about, like to share all his experience with us. So there are a couple of things, just housekeeping thing. So the conversation, the event today is mostly about like the conversation between like Dr. Long and all of us here. I'm sure we have a lot of questions, and I'm sure that Dr. Long has a lot of knowledge that he wants to share with us. So yeah, so we have received some questions in advance, and we have sent it, shared it with Dr. Long, and he will talk through those questions. But like as Dr. Long like share with us at the beginning of the event, he wants this to be a very conversational. So if like any of us in the audience has any questions, if you're in the Zoom meeting, feel free to unmute and say your and ask the question directly. But if you're a little bit shy, you can put the question in the chat window. If you are in YouTube, you can like I think that there is comment or something that you can put your question, and like the some of us in the organizing meeting will collect all the questions and let me know, and I will share the question with Dr. Long. Sounds good?
Great. Let's get started.
All right. Yeah, that's awesome. All right. So we are excited to hear from you, Dr. Long.
How about a couple of things? How about we put up those slides? If you can share the slide, and we'll put it up. We'll talk to that. So thank you everyone for inviting me today to share my knowledge and my experience. Just wanted to give, I'm sure you can read on my background, just do a search for me on the internet or even the next few pages. These are some of the things that I've done. But I'd like to maybe talk a little bit about my background that's not here. So I was actually born in Saigon, Vietnam, after the war. My parents and I were boat refugees from Vietnam in the late 70s. So we came to the US in 1979. I've lived here ever since. I grew up in Hawaii. I went to MIT when I was 18 years old. It was my dream school as a child. So I studied very hard, and I was very fortunate that I got into MIT. I went to MIT. I was very fortunate also in the early days. I studied mechanical engineering, but really focused on robotics and autonomous systems. So that's sort of since the 90s. You can imagine in the last 25 to 30 years, how much advance there has been in robotics. And I was very fortunate that I got the chance to work on robotics for many years. I've done quite a bit in the field of robotics, everything from developing early drone technologies to developing sensors. Like I developed the first miniature Lidar back in the late 90s for an autonomous helicopter system. And then I went to Wall Street and I built trading robots. And then I built robots in various forms throughout my life. And then today I am building basically robots to help with education. Obviously, I think education is a very important area for students all around the world, regardless of race and background. Unfortunately, education, the quality of education has not been improving with the needs of the education. Hence, today I'm building robotics and applying AI technology to specifically help in the field of education. So I hope that gives a more full background into some of the things that I've experienced.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Long, for sharing those information. I think that it will be very helpful for our audience to understand a little bit about your background and your education and your experience, so they can ask some questions, some specific questions to those area. All right, so do you want me to move to the next slide? We have some
absolutely.
questions.
Let's get started. I think you had sent me some questions. So these are, I think, questions, Jennifer, that you had gathered from the audience beforehand, and you had sent it to me. So I prepared some slides to actually address some of the questions. Yeah, let's go with this one. So you want to ask the question, Jennifer?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that so because our community is a community of product manager and UX designer, and a lot of people, I think that a lot of us are either working in startup environment, or like we want to like become a product manager in a startup company. So one of the questions that we have here is that what does a product manager do in a startup company, and what is expected for a product manager in startup? Like if you can share with us your experience and your insight, that would be great.
Right. So I gave this a lot of thought, because obviously we work with, I've worked with product managers over the years. And so I wanted to give two perspectives on my perspective on what a senior product manager does within a startup company, and even for larger companies. What is really the essence of a senior product manager? So if you go online to Google and you say senior product manager, roles and responsibility, the first paragraph, I think, summarizes that very well, what a senior product manager does. And so I'm just going to repeat: a senior product manager leads product managers while coordinating with engineering, marketing, sales, and other teams. They develop the product requirements and roadmap, as well as incorporate feedback from customers into the product strategy. That's a standard definition of what a senior product manager does. Now, let me give my interpretation of that. My interpretation is the function, one of the most important function of the senior product manager is to work with the key stakeholders in the company, which is everything that last paragraph said, to unify the product vision, right, and deliver the product roadmap after considering all the different perspective inputs and viewpoints. Okay, it is a unifying force in an organization. So you can imagine if you did not have a product manager, and you went to the different, and I put a standard org chart here. You went to the executive team, someone like the CEO of a company. You say, okay, what is the product vision? The CEO will give one idea. And then you go to marketing and you ask them the same thing, and they maybe give you a slightly different idea. Then you go to engineering and you ask them the same question, and they'll give you another idea. So they're giving kind of slightly different perspective. And the question is, why is it different? It's different because each person sees it in terms of needs and what is expected to meet that need differently. And I believe that one of the most important function of the senior product manager is to unify that, to get everyone to see the same vision, to see the same roadmap, to understand this is the vision and this is how we're going to get there. Do you agree? Do you agree? Do you agree? Are you going to get everybody to agree 100%? Probably not. But if you can get most people or as many people, key stakeholders within the organization to agree, yes, we agree, this is the vision and this is how we're going to get there. If you can do that, you are a very effective senior product manager. Does that make sense?
Yep, that is a great answer. So just a follow-up question.
Absolutely, shoot.
Because I'm sure that a lot of people will be interested in this question. So it's just like, for example, I'm a product manager also. However, now I'm working in a bank, and like I know the banking industry very well. I know the product in the bank industry very well, but I don't have technical background. So for example, like I didn't have a degree in engineering as you, or in AI or in machine learning. And I know that like a lot of successful startup company now are in tech industry. So if like one day I want to break in the tech industry as a PM in a startup in tech industry, do you think that people need to have an engineering background or technical background in order to be successful in a tech startup? And if they don't have, what is your advice? How can they become successful in tech startup?
Right. I would say that an engineering background as a product manager is becoming more and more useful. I do know some product managers out there that have engineering background, and from their perspective, it's much more useful than the product managers that I do know that do not have a technical background. So let me just say, between having a technical background and no technical background, those with a technical background find it useful as a product manager. Okay, but having said that, do you need a technical background to be a successful product manager? I would like to use the Elon Musk example here. All right, Elon Musk, the founder of Tesla and also SpaceX. Does Elon Musk have all the technical knowledge to build electric cars when he started? Actually, no. But actually, if you listen to some of the things that Elon said, what made him very educated was actually just reading and studying, right? There's a lot of materials, there's a lot of knowledge out there. There are courses, there are classes, there are things that you can do to educate yourself about the technical aspects of technology without having to understand or go to school formally, right? And I think the more you read, the more you understand, the more you are aware of what the technical requirements and needs and development process is, the better off you will be in terms of how you approach the problem. Is that helpful?
Yep. That is helpful, and I totally agree with you. Education is not just like a school, but we can study anywhere, and especially now we have a lot of resources that we can
a lot of resource. You can go on YouTube, you can read books, you can read article. I believe that the more you read, the more knowledge you try to consume about something, the better off you will be. And unfortunately, that is one of the challenge I often see. People think that education is only when you go to school, when you go to college, when you go to graduate school, and that's the only time you learn. You can learn without going to school. You can learn without formally doing it. The only question is, what is your personal desire and motivation to do that? I can tell you even today, I'm fairly old. I'm already many years out of school. I'm still learning. And I expect to be learning up till the day I die.
Yep. I will open the stage for the audience. Do we have any questions related to this topic?
Hello. May I have a
Hi,
question?
Ling. Yep, absolutely.
Hello, I'm in Switzerland now. So hello from Switzerland.
Hello, hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so hello from Switzerland again. So my name is Ling. I would like to have a question for Dr. Long Phan. I'm very interested in, yeah, I'm very interested in your idea that you want to invest in education. So could you please share more details about your idea and your plan? How would you contribute for education? Thank you.
I'm going to give you the quick 30-second kind of idea. Every student is unique. Every student have strength and weakness. However, when students go to school, we teach in a very unidirectional way, meaning the teacher teach and some students understand and they can pick up and they benefit. Some students don't understand, and there's a lot of students in the middle, all right? But so we teach very unidirectionally, but the way we are as people, everybody is unique. Given that problem, I believe that we can leverage technology and AI to develop unique learning programs for each student. So if I can understand the student and I knew each student's strength and weakness, I can develop a process that is more optimal to that student's learning. And I believe we can do that for every student in this world. If you could do that, if there was a way for every student to have a unique, more optimal learning for that student, then we can help every student in this world.
That's perfect idea because it's the same idea which I'm doing now for my students. Yeah, my my career path a little bit special that I specialize in mathematics, and then my father want me to go to the business school, and then in 15 years I'm doing business school and work in business, and then when I came to Switzerland and I by accident I taught mathematics. So I'm come back to my mathematics.
So actually, I'm going to take a pause here. I think we're having audio problems. Jennifer?
I think there's a bad internet connection from Link.
Okay. How about, I know we have a lot of questions. I want to make sure we have enough time. So Jennifer, how about we move on and then we'll open it up at the end for any open other questions.
All right, so we'll move on to the second topic. I think that this topic is a very interesting topic because we receive a lot of questions about this topic. It looks like we have a lot of people in our audience. Look like we want to have a startup, so that's why we are very interested in how to find market fit for a new product. Yeah. So we will start with a very first question here. Very basic question: how to find market fit for a product. So Long, could you please share some of your insights, ideas about how you find a market fit for your product, for example?
Right. So when we build a product, we expect there to be some demand for the product. And so I would, after thinking about this a little bit, this is my own framework, okay? This is how I think about things. It doesn't mean that this is the only way to think about them. There are many ways to think about this problem, but this is my way. This is how I think about it. I think when there is demand for a product, there's two types of general demand, okay? The first type is called push, and the second type is called pull, okay? Push demand is you think that there is some need for your product. You first develop that product, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna try to sell that product, right? And without really understanding fully that there is a need. You kind of sense that there is a need. You want to develop a product, and then you take that product in the marketplace, and you're trying to determine if there is a need. Then you go back, and number three is you try to make that product better, and you go back out and you try to push your product. That's a push, right? I'd say most companies do a push. I think most people that I've observed, most is more than 60% is trying a push approach. I'll develop something. I'm gonna go out, see if people want it. If people don't want it, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna keep doing this until I see that they like my product and they're buying. The other type is called pull. A pull could be, someone coming to you and saying, I really need this. I have this specific need. I've been searching for this for a long time and I don't find it. Can you build it for me? Someone comes to you and asks you to make something for them, and they say, if you build that, I will buy it. I will buy a lot of it. If you build that, I'm sure that me and my friends and everybody in our business will buy your product. Please build that. They're kind of asking you to build something. All right. And sometimes we are fortunate that we see that. For example, many of us are Vietnamese. Many Vietnamese have restaurants. You move to a new city and you're like, oh, there's no Vietnamese restaurant. People are coming to you. Hey, can you open a Vietnamese restaurant? If you open a Vietnamese restaurant, we're going to go to your restaurant, So sort of people are coming to you with a need, demand, and they say, if you do that, I'm going to buy your product. All right. And so you need to kind of do this. Now, on the first one, you build the product first, and then you try to sell it. On the second one, people tell you, I need this product. And then you think about it, okay, I think there's a lot of need. I'd like to build it. All right. Now, those are the two core difference. The only thing the same is no matter push or pull, you still have to make your product better.
Yep, exactly. What we see here is that we have two different approach to make a new product. We can either create it first and we find a market, or we have a market and we create our product. What is your advice? For example, from your experience, which one is better?
I don't think there's necessarily a better. I think you can't just say, oh, because push or pull, and the opportunity. You have to kind of look at the whole picture. Okay, like when you're looking at the opportunity and the space, you have to think maybe, the whole picture is how long is it going to take me to make my product? How much resource, how much funding I need to raise, how many people I need to put together. This push-pull is only one part of the equation. You need to look at the whole picture. Okay, and then at the end, okay, if I put 2 years of my life to just starting this idea, am I even going to make money? How am I going to survive? You need to ask all these tough questions, which again, this is how I look at it. But when you are trying to determine the opportunity, you need to have a very broad view of that opportunity. This is just one part of that.
Yep, makes sense. In our audience, does anyone have any follow-up questions? I see Thomas. Hey, Thomas, do you want to unmute and ask Long?
Sure, yes. Good morning or evening. So my question is in regards to innovation when like it challenges so how do you know how can we figure or how do people understand what they want until they see it? Does it fit into any of the push or pull type strategies, or it could be a mixture of both? And if it is a mixture of both, how does that work?
Yeah, we have different tools to answer that question. One tool that you use is you can do market study, right? There you can look at existing reports. You can go out. There are, for example, companies like McKinsey and BCG, Accenture. You know, all these companies go out and they write reports on market, and there may be a report on a market that you're interested in pursuing. So you should probably do some research on that. Other types of research is you can do your own market study, right? Instead of relying on someone else, you can say, let me go out. I think my top 3 customer is company A, company B, and company C. Let me go there and speak to some people there to see if I was to make this product, what their feedback would be, right? So you can do your own research. You can speak to experts, you know, you can speak to consultants, you know, people who are in the industry to get their feedback. There are many tools that you have to employ to do that market study. There is no one best tool. In business, you use every tool you have, not just the tools you wish you had.
Thank you.
All right, so we will move to the next question. Still the same topic, the market fit for new product. So the next question here is that what is the most important factor to make a product market fit?
Right. I would say the important factor to determine that market fit is something I called a game of balance. A game of balance is when you have a product and that product has sufficient demand. There, you can, let's say you make 10 cars and there's a buyer or buyers willing to buy your 10 car. You make 100 car and there's a buyer willing to buy 100 car. That's kind of a game of balance. What you don't want is you make 100 car, but people only want to buy 5 cars, right? That's kind of you don't want that scenario. Or another type of scenario that people do want is they make 10 car, but there's demand for 100 car, and those have problems too. Right? So if you look today, right now, I think if you go on Google News and search shortage. There's a shortage of computer graphics card today for some reason. No matter how much computer graphics card companies make right now, there's just not enough because everyone wants to do Bitcoin mining at home, right? So that's kind of not good, right? There's more demand than there is supply, and you have other problems. Competition, logistics, pricing problem, all kinds of stuff. But I would say how you find that fit is what strategy do you have to balance supply and demand? The only constant, I want to pass the idea a little bit. If you look at my last slide, the difference between push and pull, okay, is number 3, iterate product to perfection. Next page. The only constant is iterating the product to perfection. No matter what, you always want to make a better product, okay? If you have a good product, your competitors will come in. Okay, so you can imagine if right now Elon Musk is making amazing electric cars. Think about Mercedes, Toyota, Honda, every other car company in the world is gunning to beat Elon Musk. All right, and the Tesla electric car. And really what it comes to in this iteration, so as you're trying to make a better product, how do you make a better product? The only thing that separates companies is speed. Companies that can iterate faster, more efficiently, with lower cost to produce better product, ultimately wins. That's the only thing that's going to separate. And then speed, what are the things that affect speed? The function, like the different things that affect speed is the quality of the team, the amount of resource that company may have, how well that team learns, how well that team adapts. Those are the things that affect speed. Okay? If you have a good product, surely there's going to be competition. I guarantee you. If you're making a lot of money, let's say you have 90% margin, which is incredible, right? You make a product for, let's say, $100 and $90 is just profit. If people know that you're making $90 profit, everyone's going to want to copy you. I want to make $90 profit too. Why you're making $90 profit? I can't make $90 profit. Most companies make $1, $2 profit, by the way, if they're lucky. All right. But here, if you're making $90 profit, people are going to want to go there and eat your lunch. So they're going to come in and they're going to give you competition. And I'm saying once the competition comes in, the only thing that separates is speed. And speed is a function of team, resource, learning, and adapting, and other factors too. Go ahead.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks very much for this session, and it's reconciled, and it's something that we are dealing with my companies right now. So we are the company pretty much into the solar hardware, and for the last 20 years we have a lot of product is pretty good in the market, but now because a lot of IoT and innovation, a lot of our engineer is not really have that kind of skill set. And since you mentioned like the speed in the function of a team, resources, learning, and adapt. So how our company should change or do anything to encourage our engineer to have the new kind of skill set? The skill set they are it's new to them, like IoT and kind of network and so on. Yeah, thanks for that sharing.
I think nothing motivates people more than survival. All right. So if you say, hey, Long, it looks like there's now competition, the market is changing, but it seems like the team is not adapting fast enough and we're not changing fast enough. What can I do to make people more productive or willing to learn or adapt? You know, how do I improve the speed function? And I would say nothing motivates people more than survival. It's just my weird, over many years, every time we say, hey, if we don't change, we're all going to lose our job and I'm only going to keep you for another month or two. If you don't change, then we're going to die and have to fire you. Nothing gets people to change more than that attitude.
Okay, I can tell my company CEO.
No, even the CEO. Right? If you're a CEO and for some reason you think, geez, if I don't change, I'm going to die. My competitors will eat me up. I'm going to have to close my company. Nothing motivates people more than survival.
Yeah, so it sounds like there are a lot of pressure in startup environment. Like my CEO, like can come to me and say that, hey, you have 1 month left. You need to create something like good to compete in the market, or you will lose your job.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if your CEO did that to you. I guarantee you would change.
Yep. So it seems pressure, but I think it's highly rewarded, right? It's highly rewarding. Because in a startup environment, if your startup is very successful, you will have equity in the company, so you may become rich one day.
Only guarantee in a startup is that it will change. There's
Yeah.
the only constant is change.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah. Thanks
makes
very much.
sense.
It's a hard truth.
All right, so I will move to the next questions that we have here. So the next question that we receive is, how do you measure and understand the product market fit?
Right. I would say it's very important for you as you're saying, okay, is my product successful? Is there a good market fit? You have to start by having very clear definition of what is success. All right. And so if you think very broadly, to you, to the company, and to the team, what do you consider is successful? And depending on your business, success is different for each group. Let me throw a very weird example. I'm a nonprofit group. My goal is to not make money. My goal is to educate and reach as many people and help as many people as possible. So you cannot just say, as a nonprofit group, my goal is to make millions of dollars in profit, because the whole point is to not make money, but to help as many people. So for a nonprofit group, success may be we want to help 1 million people. I'm just throwing out there as a definition of success. For other groups, it might be I want to be able to make my company worth $100 million, right? Today it's worth 10 million. Our goal is to make our company worth $100 million or $1 billion, a unicorn. If we reach unicorn status, that would be considered success. What is your metric for success? These are some standard metrics: sales, users, growth rate, market share, funding, the size of the team. Some people just want to build really, really large organization. These are some metrics that people use. But the idea here is this: you need to understand what is the organization and your own metric for success, right? The question is not what is your metric for success. The big question is understanding, to me, this is success. This is where I am today, and this is how I'm going to get there. That's understanding how you get from where you are today and where you really want to be truly considered successful. That is the point.
Yep, I think that, thank you for sharing that. I think that to your point, it's very important that we need to know where we want to go. And based on that, we can figure out how we get there. The next question, this is a very interesting question. I think that this is a question that I think all the people who work in startup may have this question, because in a startup environment, which means that we have limited resources, time and money. So how do we find a product market fit for new product given limited resources?
All right. I think it's important that you understand what are your advantages when you go to market. What do you bring to the table? What does your company bring to the table? What is unique? And I put the picture on the right. Normally, if you go to business school, I'm sure some of you go to business school and you've probably seen this chart like a zillion times. So I would say the classic trade-off that they teach you in business school is, when you make a product, do you want that product to be good, fast, or cheap? Right? You want it to be better, faster, or cheaper. And in business school, they typically give you the choice. You can pick 2 out of the 3, but you cannot have all 3. Okay, are you trying to bring a good and cheap product to the market? If it's good and cheap, then it's not going to be fast. It's going to take you a while. If you want it good and fast, then it won't be cheap, right? And if you want fast and cheap, then it won't be good. All right, this is the classic trade-off that you have to make. Now, Now, I say that because this is what they teach you. In reality, your goal is actually to do all three. Okay, that center area. But all three may seem impossible, right? You want a product that is good, fast, and cheap, right? All three seems impossible. And it is that challenge that if a company can solve that challenge, that gives them a very superior competitive advantage, right? Because everyone thinks that it's impossible to do something good, fast, and cheap. But if you, I'm just saying this is an ideal scenario. This is very hard to achieve, almost impossible. But if a company can actually do that, you can actually achieve that, then that is the ultimate competitive advantage that you can bring to the marketplace.
Yep, right. And I think that one thing that I want to add here is that, so if, because to your point, the combination of these three things seems impossible, because like if it is like a trade-off. If you want to have this thing good, the other thing will be like less good. But if like when we can combine all these three things, it will be like a disruption in some technologies. For example, for the taxi industry, when we see Uber, that is like a disruption to the industry. And I think that like Uber is a combination of the three things compared with the traditional taxi industry. So it's like,
Actually, I have a perfect example for everybody here.
Mhm.
Okay. Vietnamese banh mi restaurants. Okay. I'm sure a lot of people probably eaten banh mi before, right? You probably, if you go to any area, the best Vietnamese banh mi restaurant has all of these three. Right? It's good, it's fast, and it's okay. I know it's funny, right? Well, actually, banh mi restaurants that are successful have these three. And I want you to think about that. How do I make my product like a banh mi restaurant?
Okay, yeah. I think that maybe we should have a session to dive into how to create a product that has a combination of three things that we have here. That would be a very interesting topic, and everyone will want to know how to do that.
I guarantee, I challenge everyone to think about that banh mi example, because I have never seen that break. Everywhere I go, banh mi is $4 or $5 US. There's long lines at the banh mi restaurant, and it's fast. Right? Yep. So it's good, it's fast, and it's cheap. And that's why the Vietnamese restaurant owner that owns the banh mi restaurant, they solved this.
Great example. As you know, like other than the audience that we have in the Zoom meeting, we have the YouTube channel also. And I just received a question from the audience in YouTube channel. Let me read this question to you. I want to ask that for beginner, which books and courses I need to learn? Do you recommend any website, blog, groups, channels to follow to update news and knowledge in this field? So this is about like self-study, like always improve our knowledge as we discussed previously. Yep, can you please share with us?
I think it's very important that people do their best to understand what's happening around the world, updated with news and facts and information. When we read news and facts and information, a lot of the things we read requires further reading. Let's say we read about politics, and let's say we read about politics in the Middle East. When we read about politics in the Middle East, we have a lot of questions, and we follow up that. If you have the ability to then say, okay, I have these questions, let me follow up that question by going to find more resource about those questions. That is the type of attitude that we need to take. whether it's about politics in the Middle East, electric vehicle sales around the world, solar consumption and solar demand and solar product, financial products due to major events, whatever it is, read, be aware, right? Every day I read a lot of news. I try to understand what's happening around the world. Does that one news article tell me everything, every detail? No, it does not. But it tells me some information that will make me go look for more information, go find more detail, go find more background, right? And it's having that understanding and the skill to go find information on your own. That is a skill I think people should develop more. Read. And how you can do that is by just reading what is happening around the world. Don't think that those things happening around the world does not affect you. As a matter of fact, it does affect you. And you should understand how it affects you, whether it affects you professionally at work or affects your investment portfolio. For me, it does, what I invest in, or affects how you do business, and or how you engage with your friends that are different nationality, different race from you. Understanding and becoming more aware of what's happening in the world will only help you.
Yep. Thank you for sharing that. Let me follow up on this question. If you can make a recommendation of just one, which book do you recommend our audience to read? Can you just give us the title? Which book do you like most?
I actually had lunch with a very famous guy last year, and he told me to read a book, and I started reading it. So I actually recommend this book. It's Sapiens. Sapien. I think if our audience read this book called Sapiens, it's going to give you a little bit different perspective. Why is money valuable? Why does money have that value? Actually, money is not anything. It doesn't, there's no real value. If I take out $100 bill, it's just a piece of paper with some ink on it. But why do we give it some value? It's because everybody agrees to give that $100 bill some value. But in reality, it's just a piece of paper with some printing on it.
Yep,
If
that
you
makes
read
sense.
this book, it will have this type of effect on you where it makes you think. Why do we assign value to things? What is the value of a piece of land? What is the value of a car, of a Bitcoin? Why do people pay 60,000 US for a Bitcoin? That is nothing physical. It's some digital thing somewhere, but people willing to pay $60,000 for one Bitcoin. Why is that? Please read Sapien.
Yep. So Nam put the title of the book here, Sapien, A Brief History of Humankind. Is that the book?
That's the one.
All right, awesome. So if there is one blog or website you would recommend for product managers, what is that website or blogs?
I actually don't recommend any website or blog. I recommend you read in the business section what's happening. So if you go to Google News Business, read about what companies are doing. When Microsoft, when Google, when Apple, Tesla, any big companies, they release a product, understand why are they doing that? What's the reason? Right? And it's when you just being aware and thinking, and why are they doing this? What's the reason? What's the market opportunity? How many products can they sell? Just start thinking, why company? Because when you read about why companies like Microsoft does something and you actually do understand, then you can start to think, how can I use that same winning strategy for myself? Right? You want to learn about how other companies are successful so that you can go back and use that knowledge for your own company and for your own life, right? You don't have to, they say you don't have to build a new wheel. You know, people have already many examples of success. You just don't know about it clearly, or you don't know enough. Most of the things in this world, 98, 99% has already been solved. All right. You don't need to be that guy that wants to solve new things all the time. You don't need to be successful. You just need to be educated and aware.
Yep, got it. Last question. This question should be very brief, very quick. But I think that that is something maybe like a lot of people in our audience is interested about, because we are PM and we are UX designer. What is the product management book? Just one. Do you recommend?
I don't think I've read any product management book. Let me say why. Because I think product management has been evolving over the last 5, 10, 20 years. If you said 20 years ago, what is product management compared to today, it's very, very different. If you think software engineer 20 years ago today, it's also different, but not as different as product management. In my opinion, product management has becoming more critical to the success of companies in modern time. And the reason why it's becoming more critical is, remember that point I said at the beginning. Part of the major responsibility of a product manager is to unify that product vision. It's that unification, it's understanding that communicating and unifying that product vision is becoming critical within organization. 20 years ago, things were already pretty slow. Today, everything is fast, right? Things are changing so fast. So as the world is changing, as the process is changing, how do we adapt communication to change quickly as well? How do we deal with that change? And the product manager role becomes more important. This is my own opinion.
Yep.
I don't have a book specifically. I'm sure you can go on Google and read that standard stuff. I'm just giving you my perspective.
Yeah, we really appreciate you sharing your perspective. So we don't have a lot of time left, so I will open the stage for our audience to ask any questions that's still in your mind to our guest speaker. Yeah, Nam, please. I see that you have a question.
Yeah, so my question is less about like the product market fits, but it's more into like the small or the startup environment. In the small or startup environments, a lot of like more like even senior level or junior PM have the opportunity to communicate with executives into the product strategy, something that is not really possible when you work for the big corporate. So what would be your advice for a senior level or like junior PM to make ourselves visible and progress really good in the eyes of executives when we have opportunity to have a meeting with them and work with them on like the strategy?
All right. So again, this is I'm gonna give you my personal opinion on this topic. Unfortunately, product management for early stage startup often does not exist. I'm talking companies less than 1 year or even 2 years of existence. You will find that the focus on hiring product manager or developing a product manager is almost non-existent in early stage startup company. And the reason is very simple, actually, because often for technology company, they want to hire engineers. Right? You can imagine we have very limited resource initially. We have an idea. We're not thinking about unifying our communication because it's a team of 3 or 5 or even 10 people. You're thinking, hey, I need engineers to build the product for me. So the product manager only becomes useful once the company grows to a particular size, right? Where you're starting to develop groups within the organization, the executive group, the marketing group, the engineering group. Then once you start to bifurcate, split up into group, that's when the product manager role becomes more important, right? So now when you're having groups within an organization, you can see that how is the different group going to work together? Now, I would say traditionally it would be up to the CEO or the executives to help do that. But actually, do you really want your CEO to be a product manager? You want your CEO to go out and sell the product, to go out and raise money. You want him to do those functions. And so that's why I said once the organization gets to a particular size where there are different groups within the organization, and you need someone to help to unify that vision, to help clarify that roadmap for the team, that's when the product manager role. So I think to finally tap off on your answer, I think it's important that organizations realize that as they mature, this is a function that they should consider. And how you should think about it is at the right time, you should bring this up. Hey, I joined this company when we were 3 people. Now we're 20 people with different groups and different function. We're starting to have communication challenge and unification challenges. People are not saying the same thing. When you start hearing those type of things where CEO may think one thing and engineering may think something else, it should trigger this. Maybe it's time for a product manager.
Yeah, so I'm asking this question because I'm the middle of the exercise to work with executives. So almost like all of them are 60 plus or over, or to be honest, white Americans. I'm pretty much the only Asians in that discussion.
Yep.
And so, like as Asians, I normally keep quiet and only speak when I realize that is like something I can contribute to the conversation. But I so quickly realize a lot of people say a lot of things in the meetings, and sometimes wonders like, is it necessary for the people to open their mouth, even not something is significant? And
Right.
would like to get your perspective and advice. How should I position myself when I enjoy those kind of meetings with the people of like very senior, like executive level,
Yeah.
and a lot of discussion on the product strategy and the business strategy and how the company should position ourselves in the next 5 or 10 years.
Right. You should ask yourself, what is in that scenario, who is the unifying voice, right? Without a product manager, it's actually up to the CEO or executive. Who has that function? Right now, I would say, again, traditionally, it's just the CEO. He comes and says, this is my product vision, and I want everybody to do this. Right? That's kind of, I think, probably your type of scenario where in lieu of a senior product manager where the team recognizes this role and this function, probably a senior executive like a CEO or CTO would do that. I mean, look, is it your job to tell everybody what to do? It's hard, right? Because often we feel, oh, we're just a low-level guy or just a middle-level guy. I can't tell the boss what to do. I would say it's the team's goal to recognize these challenges, right? I would say probably the #1 challenge that calls for a product manager is when you're facing communication challenge. It seems like your problem stems from the fact that communication is not clear and priorities are not clear. That is the challenge. And how you overcome that challenge is, again, the senior product manager can help mitigate that challenge, but how you overcome that, you need clearer communication. You need clearer guidance and guideline, and you need very unified processes, right? Now, all that will lead to, okay, we should hire a product manager. but you need to recognize the challenge first. You recognize the challenge, then you can propose solutions.
I know that this is something we try not to focus a lot when we're in more in junior level, but I realize as like senior level and executive level, like even you don't want, and in the small company, the small medium-sized company, especially the big companies, always have to play politics in the conversation.
Whether you're junior or senior, communication challenge is communication challenge. That is the root cause of all these problems, right? Because no one is unifying and making communication more simple. As a matter of fact, it's the human tendency when there are problems to make communication even more difficult. This is my area, you know, anything in this area, you don't know anything about. This is my area. When it comes to leading this company, I'm the CEO. You know, this is my area. Don't tell me what to do. But actually the root cause of all of these things is communication and lack of unity.
And do you have any tips that you think that I should use when I like have in those meetings with those executives?
It's like you know, there's the grieving process when, for example, someone passes away. You have to first you know, you deny things. Oh, that doesn't exist. And then, you know, the multi-step grief. And then at the end, okay, you know, you finally accept that that's the case. They have to, it's kind of grieving in this area. This is a painful thing for many companies to accept and acknowledge that they have a communication and lack of unification. It's something very, very painful, very difficult. So you're going to encounter a lot of challenge. Now, what mitigates some of this is it has to be driven by the senior leadership of the company. You cannot say, I'm a junior guy, I'm going to change everybody, right? That's almost impossible. Does the CEO, does the leadership of this company have the right skill to adapt? When you join a company, in evaluating your leaders, in evaluating your boss, in evaluating the team that you're about to join, I think this is an important question that you should ask. Does my team have the maturity and the leadership to adapt?
Yep.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Yep, I think that really makes sense. I think that based from what you just shared with us, I think that the important here is that when we decided to join a startup, we need to know about the leadership team of that startup and see if that is a good fit for us or not. I see that we are at time. So Long, are you okay with we take one or two more questions, or you need to go now?
No, please finish.
All right. Yep. I asked that question because I see that we have a lot of people in the audience, and I know that a lot of them have a lot of questions. So I just want to make sure that all of us have opportunities to ask the questions. Yep. I will take questions from the audience. Does anyone have any questions that you want to ask, Long?
I suppose I do have some questions here.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Can you guys hear me clearly? Actually, can you?
Yeah. Yep. I can hear you very well.
Cool. Long. So thanks for taking the time with us today. So I think I have two questions. So the first is a little curious about your reading appetite. You know, I mean, like personal reading. So earlier, you seemed to indicate more about your reading online blogs and articles and things like that. So of course you can expand more on that, but I'm also curious about your reading about books. I mean, what type of genre are you interested in, and like usually how many books you read per month or something like that?
I read this
personal development or business or entrepreneurship or things of that nature, or technology, and you know. And yeah, that's the first question, and maybe like your comment on how to effectively read books and things like that, read to learn and read to grow and things of that nature.
Mhm.
And the second question is back to your point earlier about offering product that are that satisfy all three criteria, right? Good, cheap, and fast, right? But obviously there might possibly be other dimensions. For example, I mean, there might be certain segments of the market where like high-end market where they actually prefer things like good, fast, and expensive, right? So I mean, do you have any comment on that, right? And yeah, and even actually also the kind of third question about how you would advise someone to go into entrepreneurship, someone who has always been an employee for a while, right? But now want to venture into entrepreneurship given the sort of like new decade, new time with many different disruptive technologies right now. So lots of opportunities, right? So how would you comment on that?
Okay. So let's talk about me and how much reading. I think on average, at least, I spend 2 hours a day reading. I don't know what you do. Everybody's a little bit different. I spend about 2 hours a day reading about different things. Reading about the news. It could be politics. It could be business. It could be technology. It could be other companies in the current professional environment. I spend about 2 hours. That's me. I'm used to that every day. I kind of enjoy that. It's kind of the first things I do when I wake up. I try to see, okay, what happened to the world overnight as I slept. It could be the stock market or the bond market or finance, that's my personal desire. I like that. So that's why I read it. It's important that you read something you like. It's a habit, like exercising, right? Not everybody like exercise. Actually, exercise is very difficult for a lot of people because we're busy and we're tired, but it's a choice. You have to, if you want to be more educated, you have to use the opportunities to become more educated, and reading gives you a very easy way to become educated. Okay, so that's kind of my philosophy. Is reading the best? I don't only read, by the way. I love audiobooks. I love audiobooks. So you can read, you can work, and you can listen to people. I also look at YouTube videos for, hey, I'm working, but someone is they're talking about something very interesting. I leave that in the background. There's different ways in which information can come into your head. Talking to people, making sure that I have enough engagement with mental stimulation. There's different ways to learn. I don't always give situations where I'm teaching others. I'm learning from others as well. As a matter of fact, my team is much better than me technically in many areas, but I have to learn from them. Okay, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Okay, can you explain that to me? Can you give me a quick summary of what you're doing? I'm learning, right? Not just doing what I'm supposed to do, but I'm interested in learning what other people are doing. And so the different sources, and all I'm doing every day is just learning more and more and more. Okay. And you have to remember, when you go out to business, you're battling guys like me. Okay. You have to compete with guys like me. I'm not that good. I'm okay. Okay. I'm good. I'm not the best. Okay. There are guys who will eat me up. They're really, really good. The question is, where are you in this whole tree, in the monkey tree? Where are you? Are you the top monkey or are you the bottom monkey? Okay. And you have to think, you have to compete. When you go out and compete, I can tell you, there are many, many guys like me. They're super sharks, right? And you imagine you go into that room, that sales meeting, that business meeting, raising money, anything. You have to compete with guys like me every day. There are many guys like me. I'm not the only guy. There are 50 bigger sharks than me in that room. How are you going to compete with them? how are you going to stack and measure against all those other guys that are more read, more ready, have more relationships than you? What is your competitive advantage when you go into that? This is partially why I do the things that I do, because I realize that when I go to a meeting, I'm competing with everybody else, right? And understanding that I have to be more educated, more read, more experienced. How am I going to get that knowledge? By doing different things. And reading is a very simple way in which one can educate themselves. I think your second question, I don't think I can get to it all. I'm just remembering the top two is this good, fast, cheap strategy. Let me just say something quickly. I'm sure many of us play cards, you know, the card game, poker or anything like that. There's an old saying, you play with the cards you have, not the cards you wish you have. All right. Meaning whatever life deals you, you have to play with those cards. You have to understand those cards so that you're strategizing. What is the best way? When do I play which card? When do I play which card first? When do I play which card second, third, fourth, and fifth? You have to think about it. This is similar. Good, fast, and cheap. Understand your card. Understand what is the strength, what is the weakness, what is the strategy in which you play your card. It's that understanding of yourself that is critical. People often are such terrible card players. You know why? Because actually, they don't know how to play their cards. They don't think about the strategy. They don't know what is good, what is bad, where are they strong, where are they weak. They don't actually take time. I play with many of those people when I was younger. Cards. I just like to play. There's an old game, Vietnamese, like Vietnamese Chinese called Big Two. Big Two is like two is the biggest number, right? You play, but so many people are so terrible at Big Two. You don't need a lot of twos to win. You just have to know how to play your cards, right? And people actually don't understand that. You play with the cards you have, not the cards you wish you had.
Yep. I see that we have two people in our audience want to ask questions. So I see Cường and Tum. So Cường will go first, and after that, Tum can go second. Is that okay? Cường, please unmute and say your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Long, for your conversation. I learned a lot today. I will appreciate your scientific approach and clear mind. I have two questions. The first one is kind of related to the reading. Do you have any step when you're reading some information or while you're reading information? You have any thinking or thought or step that you follow? The second one, I would love to know, and it's interesting for me, you approach everything very clear and scientific. How about your love? If it's not violate your privacy, can you share a little bit with us when you approach your wife, for example, things like that? Is it like scientific like that, or?
So I'll try to answer both. I think the first one, so let me think about the best way to answer this. Most reading materials are in English, okay? And I know that we have a predominantly Vietnamese community here. Maybe English is probably the second language or even third language for many of you. But I highly encourage you to read English material as much as possible. And not just reading, but speaking. So actually, if you block out my face, okay, if you didn't know my face today, and you only thought of me as my voice only, you probably wouldn't know that I'm Vietnamese. And actually, I also grew up in Hawaii and they have an accent there. I actually don't have a Hawaiian accent as well. It's important that we read and communicate in English really well. And I cannot stress that enough, because the world is still predominantly English. We still predominantly work with English speaking members and teammates. I have a team in Jordan, Jordanian, almost 30 members. We speak in English. It's important that we communicate and speak clearly, whether it's reading or writing. Okay, and so I highly encourage everyone, if you're not comfortable, you know, often the things that are uncomfortable for us, we try to stay away. But I highly encourage everyone to become more and more comfortable with reading, writing, and speaking English more clearly. For many of the students that I've advised over the years that have come from Vietnam, I have one rule. If you want to improve your English, you must not speak Vietnamese. So the only case where you can speak Vietnamese, I would say, is probably to your parents and your family. Outside of that, you are not allowed to speak Vietnamese. If you set that as a rule, in a few years, your English will improve significantly. That's what I've observed. I think the second one is you asked about family and passion and all that. How do you balance? I work hard, there's no doubt, but I used to work a lot harder. Right? So depending on our age and our passion, our commitment to life outside of work, what is the right balance? For each person, it's different. But generally, when we're younger, we can work harder. We can take more risk. I would say below 30, you can work very hard. You can take more risk. You can really invest a lot into your career. Between 30 and 40, we start to go down a little bit. I think you should need to balance both your health, physical wise, your family, and other areas, even perhaps taking care of your parents or elderly people. Those things become more dominant as we get into our 30s and 40s and 50. So what that means is, depending on your age and your commitment, it needs to adapt to the time and where you are in your career and the commitments you have outside of work. If it's out of balance for too long, you pay a price, right? If you, let's say in the 20s, you work 80 hours a week. You're 40 something years old, you're 50 years old, you have a wife and kids, and you still work 80 hours a week. I'm pretty sure your wife will think about leaving you. So is that the balance you want? Is that balance? Only you can answer that.
I want to check in with you. So we have 5 more people who want to ask you questions, but I know that we are over time already, and I want to respect your time because I'm sure you have a lot of commitment. So I will let them ask questions, but please let me know if you need to go, and we can stop, and I can send you the question after the event.
Let's put a hard stop at 12:45, which is I know this is going on very long. I have something else I have to do after that, but let's put a hard stop at 12:45 today, which gives us another 22 minutes or so. So you can throw as many questions as you want at me in 22 minutes.
All right. So because I want to make sure that everyone has a chance to ask question, we have 5 people left. So can we like ask and answer each question in roughly about 5 minutes per question? Because I want the last person to have a chance to get your wisdom too.
Sure.
All right. So I think that the next one is Tum. Can you please unmute and ask your question? All right. So I see that Tum.
Hello.
Okay. Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, hello everybody. It's nice to meet you here. My name is Tom. I come from a small startup named Viet.UX-PM. As a startup, finding product market fit is our major job. And I have been reading a lot, and I think all the product manager here all do. So what I am expecting today are practical things. I admire Dr. Long Phan. I know what makes you today is a lot of work, try, and failure. So can you share one or more lesson learned in which you failed or successful in bringing your product to market fit to us? I'd love to hear that.
Before I answer that, let me give everybody a common fallacy. Fallacy is the wrong impression. So if you look at my background and what I talked about, or even read about me on the internet, you'll see, wow, this guy is very, very successful. And but actually, my background is more like an iceberg than a big tree. Iceberg is, when you look at an iceberg, you see the ice on the top of the water, which is about 10%. And then there's the ice below the water, which is 90%. My success versus failure is very, very similar. And the reason why I'm able to sit here today and share a lot of this with you is very similar. I've been very, very fortunate. I've had some success in my life, but the amount of failures that I've experienced far outweighs a lot of my success. And actually, I'm still learning, right? I'm still learning. I think one very good example is maybe my first startup company that I did. Actually, the company is called Artificial Intelligence Expert Systems. I started that company in the early 2000s. It was actually to develop, I had my own hedge fund. It was to develop a robotic trading system, high frequency trading systems. And actually, we built it. And during that time, it was so amazing. You can imagine going to work every day, turning on the computer, running a program, and it would make money for you. It's something like that. And I was one of the first guys to kind of do that and show that it could work, but I was not the most successful guy. Actually, I ran that for about 4 to 5 years, and then I could not adapt. Remember, I put up I could not adapt. My competitors over adapted, meaning they adapted better than me. And because of that, I actually had to, I made my money. I didn't lose any money, but I had to quit. I think that was a good example. I realized that I did that. I made millions of dollars doing that, but I was no longer the best. And so, or I was no longer competitive. And then we had to say, okay, let's shut it down. Let's close the company. I was very fortunate. I did that and I didn't get hurt at all. So that was one of my big failures as well. All right, next.
Next question will be Thomas.
Yes. Thank you very much for taking the time this morning to speak with us. So my question is, failing fast, failing often, failing cheap? I think I can fail cheap. I think I can fail often, but I have a problem with failing fast enough to iterate, to get to that perfect solution that you had showed on one slide. Right. Any advice on how I can fail faster?
Sorry, I don't want to be. Many of us have dated, yes or no? I like to give a dating example. Okay, yes. If you date, you have to think, okay, when I date someone, you know, how do I balance that? And actually, the reason why I bring up dating is startups and companies are very similar to dating. You're trying to date your customers. You're trying to date the market. You're trying to get a successful relationship going. Okay. And so I think when you're thinking about bringing your product to market and balancing fast, cheap, and good, it should be similar to dating. If you're putting so much time into someone or something, but you're not getting the ROI, should you continue? If you're pursuing someone that has no interest in you, right? Should you continue? You should be asking that type of question. You should be bringing up the relationship theory of dating. I find when using dating analogy for startups, it's actually very, very relevant. I hope that's helpful.
This reminds me a lot of the college days. Thanks.
Yep. All right. So next will be Nate. Yep. Please go ahead and unmute and ask the question.
Thanks, Long, for spending time with us. And I'm going to make it very short. I want to go back to the situation where the organization that I'm in is facing the communication and unity issue, where you say that the executives wouldn't want to listen to each other or wouldn't want to listen to all the subordinates. And me and the team, I think we could see through like where the problem is. And we can point out to the executive board the problem and the root cause of it. But my question would be, what would your approach be so that the approach wouldn't be like too overconfident, or you could get the attention from the executive board, so they could, like, as a CEO yourself or as a like leader yourself, what would get your attention?
Right. I have a couple of comments here. My first comment is use of words and strategy is critical. When people talk at an organization, and I failed at this many times. I had to correct myself. Most people use the word I or me. I did this. You know, this was my effort. You know, me. And I and me is not as powerful as we and team. Okay, when you're communicating, if you're saying this is my perspective, it's not as powerful as saying this is our perspective. This is the team's perspective. All right. If you're communicating, the most effective positioning is always a team positioning. I've had a discussion. The team has come together. We've discussed. We've summarized some of the challenges that we're currently facing. You know, the team has asked me to present you with these challenges. So these are. I just want to share some thoughts on the challenges that the team has prepared. Do you have a few minutes? And when you present it from team and we, it is a powerful thing that is hard to ignore. And you have to do this internally and externally. Always we and team wins above me and I. Please remember that. So if you're going to say, are you most effectively communicating? Often you're going to find a lot of the problem, and this was for me, is when I'm trying to do it, it was my viewpoint. This is what I thought. This is my work. If you do that, weak. If you say, hey, the team came together, the team did this, we spent hours or days putting this together, and we want an opportunity to show this to you. Wow, doesn't that sound more powerful? Whether you're doing that internally or externally, pick your choice of words and strategy clearly, and that should help.
Yep, that is great advice. And we'll move to the next question. I think that is Mike. Phan, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yes, thank you, Long, for joining us today. And I just have two quick questions for you. Is I wanted to hear your thoughts on the Vietnam's startup ecosystem. For recent year has become expanding and grow phenomenally. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that. You know, the pros and cons, or maybe some of the differences between Vietnam's tech industry versus the U.S. And the second question is, what is the process that you implement to find the right partners when you start out a startup, because partnership is very important.
Right. Vietnam versus US. And so let's look at market share and market potential. You know, obviously we all know the size of Vietnam. Relative to the rest of the world, Vietnam is still a very small country. If the startup is focused on meeting demand for Vietnam, often the opportunity is relatively small. If the startup is focused on leveraging Vietnam's strength to offer a product or service to the rest of the world, I think that opportunity opens up a lot more, because you can then say, okay, Vietnam has certain strength. I want to leverage the strength and I want to take that and share it with the rest of the world. I think those type of opportunities are more. In recent year, I think the interest in Vietnam has been more focused on the second part, which is how do I take the strengths of Vietnam, whether that's in manufacturing or cheap labor costs or anything else that you can think of that Vietnam strategically brings to the table, and how do I take that and bring that to the rest of the world so I can be a competitive player? I think a lot of the startups are thinking more along those lines, and startups that are thinking along those lines are becoming those big successes that you're hearing. Sorry, the second part, well, can you repeat the second part, or Jennifer, can you refresh my memory on the second part? The second question?
Sorry, sure. So the second question is just, you know, guys, you know, I know you started out like in the academia, and then you transitioned to the industry and the startup. So I just wanted to know, you know, the strategies that you employ to find the right partners, because, you know, the success or failure of a startup also depends heavily on partnership.
Yeah. Let me speak from a founder perspective. I'm assuming that you're asking from a founder perspective, not just someone joining a startup, but how do you find the right co-founders, I would say. A co-founder is actually like a marriage. All right, you're actually, I mean, it doesn't have the same, exactly the same, but the effect is the same. As a co-founder, the question is, do you and your co-founder as a team cover all the skills necessary to make the company successful? That's what you should be thinking about. So there's two parts of this, is between your skill and your co-founder, do you have all the skills required to make the company successful? If you don't, you're going to have problems. Let's say you bring two business guys together, right? So two business guys come together to try to co-found a company, but they're doing a technology startup, but they don't have any knowledge on how to build. Then that too is going to have problem because they're missing this technology part. So is that the right combination of co-founder to make the company successful? What are the skill set of the team that is required to make that a startup idea successful? So that's that part. The second part of this is a combination of team dynamic. Do you work well with somebody? Someone may have the skill, but you just hate that person. You cannot stand hearing that person talk. You cannot stand sitting down and eating a meal with that person. You cannot stand like the things that person does outside of the work. Is that a good partner? Is that someone you want to get married to? Like, you should think about it from that dynamic. But I think the most important, this is for me, because I've had several very bad experience in this area, is the person honest and truthful to you? I find that when the trust factor breaks amongst co-founder, It's really, really bad. The idea is effectively dead. If you are about to get into business with a co-founder that you cannot absolutely trust the way you would if you were to marry somebody, if you cannot trust your co-founder to that, almost to that level, that degree, it's already dead. That's my perspective.
Great answer. So we'll move on to the last question, last but not least. So this will come from Phan. Leung, could you please unmute and ask your question?
Yes, so thank you for great talk today. So I have a question about the Lidar technology. So I don't know if but it's not really related to topic today, but maybe it's related to the expertise. Right? So Elon Musk has said that the Lidar technology is very ugly and expensive, and they will never use this one for Tesla. But the others still using this one. So how is your opinion? So which one you think is will be better in the future?
Sorry, can you repeat that question again? Or if Jennifer, can you repeat that for Leung?
Probably, Leung, can you please repeat? Because that is a little bit technical about the Lidar technology, and I'm not sure about that. Sorry.
So because the Elon Musk has said the Lidar LIDAR technology.
You're asking about Lidar.
Yeah. So it's very expensive, and it's ugly. So for the car, for the vehicle, right?
Yeah.
So they will never use this one for Tesla. So how do you think? And they will use the vision camera. So how do you think? Which one is better? So for the robot area and the robotics, and also in EV area. So.
Okay, I think I asked her. So the question is, LiDAR versus alternative sensing solutions for robotics and autonomous driving. Right. What do I recommend? So in a past life, this was important for me to understand. And so I will say this, in today's world, more and more sensors are being developed. Every year it changes, new sensors come on, and sensors become cheaper and better. There are always many choices. If at any one time, if we were to say what is the best, there are many, and it's hard to say what is the best. The question is, what is the right strategy? As a robotics person, I would say the right strategy is often a combination of sensors that will give you maximum information at minimum cost. That's what you're trying to optimize. You're not optimized for one sensor. You're trying to say, what is the package of sensors that you can put together that will give you the information you need for the most minimum cost? I think from that perspective, that's the strategy you should employ.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I see that we are at time now. So I would like to conclude this event on behalf of the Viet.UX-PM Association. We would like to thank Dr. Phan for his time to come here and share his insight and wisdom with us. This is super helpful. I don't know what everyone thinks, but for me it's super helpful. And I see that a lot of us have a lot of questions. So I believe that all of us feel that this time is super beneficial to us. So please join me to thank Dr. Phan for his time and all the wisdom that he shared with us today. Appreciate your time and hope that you have a great weekend. So the recording of the event will be shared and posted in our Facebook channel, right? Nam and Kuong, Facebook channel and YouTube channel. So please follow the YouTube channel, Facebook channel, and Slack channel we have, and we will have a lot of other interesting events with a lot of distinguished guest speakers to learn more about the product management and user UX designing. So once again, we appreciate your time, Long, and
thank you, everyone. And again, this is just my perspective, but if you have any questions, don't hesitate, reach out, ask question. We can always learn. I said, until the day we die. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.